We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism.
Thousands are expected to gather in D.C. this weekend to mark the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, when impassioned demonstrators flocked to the nation's capital demanding racial and economic justice, voting rights, fair education, and civil rights protections, and where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous "I Have a Dream" speech. Nicole Killian joins us from the Lincoln Memorial, where the events will soon begin. Nicole, good morning.
Good morning. Reverend Al Sharpton and Dr. King's son, Martin Luther King III, will headline today's event. We spoke with King about his father's legacy 60 years later and learn more about the inspiration behind his dad's iconic words.
I have a dream. My 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
That was the clarion call which galvanized the nation in 1963 and became etched in modern memory as the preeminent vision for racial justice.
A speech like no other today, which moved the crowd to standing ovation.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his "I Have a Dream" speech to over 200,000 attendees and audiences nationwide who tuned in to the televised event. But that iconic line and namesake for the speech was not the original plan. An earlier draft was titled "Normalcy, Never Again."
What's very distinct from the earlier draft and what we actually see as "I Have a Dream" is it does not contain that final section with the dream peroration.
Dr. Vicki Crawford is the director of the Morehouse College Martin Luther King Jr. collection, which is housed at the Robert Woodruff Library.
So why don't you think it was in this draft?
We know that Dr. King at the March on Washington had a prepared text. And then, of course, the audience was giving him such a great call and response that I guess he felt energized, and we understand that Mahalia Jackson, the gospel singer, was there on the stage, and she said, well, tell him about the dream. And so he went off text, and the speech was extemporaneous after that.
Fast forward 60 years, and preparations are being made for people to once again gather in March.
We got to go back to the drawing board, and that's why we say this is not a commemoration, this is a celebration. It is a rededication.
Martin Luther King III reflects on his father's legacy and the work that remains.
Dad's last book was written in '67, was "Where do we go from here, chaos or community?" We are living in chaos, but we must build community if we as a society are to survive, and particularly if we're talking about a democracy surviving.
King says he remains concerned about voting rights and the rollback of other measures like the Supreme Court's decision this summer on affirmative action. He and his family are expected to meet with President Biden and Vice President Harris on Monday to commemorate the actual anniversary of the march. Michelle?
All right, Nicole. Enjoy the day. Enjoy the commemoration. I always think of that speech more so for the original portion of it in broken promises of what our founding fathers had promised this nation of freedom and opportunity. And it's often thought of as the dream looking ahead, but Martin King, he really talked about the obligation of this nation and the promissory note.
I like when his son said it's not a celebration, it's a rededication.
Rededication.
Right. A reminder. Of still how far we have to go as well.